This is Big T, and welcome to Big T Studios. Well, it's been a while since I've put out a video, and I felt like, this is time of year that I'd like to help people save a dollar or two. After all, that's kind of what we're looking out for each other and trying to save people some headaches. And the focus of my video today is going to be the 11 rack guitar processor. It's probably one of the finer pieces of music equipment that I've ever purchased, but I do have a complaint about it. It's been discontinued, no fault of mine. It's companies want to get away from stuff, and I understand why they want to get away from stuff. They want you to buy a new product. They're creating something new. They want you to buy something new. There's nothing wrong with that. But I guess I get my panties in a bunch when companies want to get on the high horse and tell you that they're going to save you money and they're going to care about the environment. Well, nothing says I care about the environment like taking a perfectly fine piece of equipment and telling people, hey, throw it in the trash. We've got a new product, and we're not going to maintain what we sold you for. Now, the product of 11 rack was discontinued in sales in 2019. Now, Avid claims that they're going to support that all the way up to 2024. And we've passed that deadline already. And the truth of the matter is they quit supporting that in 2020. Well, how does that relate to saving me money? Well, right now, Avid's doing the exact same thing with a product called the Inbox Studio. It too, like the 11 rack, is an audio interface that's designed for the home user, a small studio, and it also is going to be canceled soon, I feel. Imagine you're buying one of these 11 racks in 2019 only to find out a month later that they're no longer going to sell the 11 rack. Matter of fact, they're only going to promise to give you support until 2024. That's 5 years, you say. That's a good deal. Well, not when the product's $800. And quite frankly, they lied about that. They knew ahead of time that Apple Silicon was coming in 2020. They're a big house. They produce equipment for not just the home and studio user, but for professional outfits. Avid makes the hardware that goes in some post-production outfits and the major recording studios. That's why when you hear, oh, you gotta have Pro Tools. Pro Tools is the industry standard. It's not the industry standard. It's the big houses standard. And the only reason the big houses have it is they've had it forever, and they're not going to change. They're going to stay where they're at. So what makes me think that they're fixing to do that with the Inbox? When I bought the 11 rack, it was an expensive item, and it went on sale for approximately the cost of Pro Tools, equivalent of what's Pro Tools Studio today. It went on sale for the fact that you could buy the unit plus get the software for essentially free. So I thought, man, that's a good deal. I was already using Pro Tools at the time because it came with another piece of equipment that I had. But I thought, that'll give me 2 perpetual licenses in case I ever start expanding. So good idea. Now, one of the things that you're going to find that's a headache in modern computers is something called latency. I don't care if it's a Mac with M1 Silicon or RME. Everybody's got some form of latency. Where the latency comes into play on a guitar track is when you're trying to listen through your headphones and play along with your tracks, and you've got that momentary delay. It really throws you off. And the 11 rack is exactly zero latency. It's really, the minute you hear the sound is because it's processed at that point. And it's a great interface. If you were to go out and buy a 8-channel interface that could handle 96,000 kilohertz and 24-bit, you can probably buy that today now through Behringer for an inexpensive item. But you don't get all the capabilities that you get with the 11 rack. The 11 rack has its built-in amplifiers, the equivalent of a Vox, the equivalent of a JTM, the equivalent of the Super Plexi Lead. They've got a few different models that kind of emulate that, and you get the 800 emulation, but you also get Soldano and Mesa Boogie. And there's people that complain that they could never get the sound that they really wanted out of the 11 rack, and the 11 rack gives a fine amplifier sound. Where the weakness is, and has always been, was in the speaker modeling. Speaker modeling from the time the 11 rack was released in 2008 or 9 till now has come a long way. We have what's called cabinet impulse responses now. Bogren Digital makes a great IDX plug-in that even makes it better. So the technology for the cabinet response is improving night and day. Now, their impulse responses are okay. They're probably top-notch at release today because you can move the mics around virtually on other hardware or software plugins. You get a better response. But with the current settings, you only get straightforward and off angle for your speaker, speaker mic. Now you can change the mics out. You get quite a few mics, and you can go through the different ones. But my complaint about this is, as good as it is, Avid dropped the ball on M1 support for this thing. Now, there's going to be people out there that argue and say, oh, if you bought it, you should have known it was going to quit being supported. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about drivers. Now, I'm going to show you in this video that Avid's own website claims that their driver works with Windows 10 version 20H2. And it does not. And I'm going to show it. Are they going to fix it? Probably not. And that's why it's a warning to everybody considering ponying up nearly $600 to buy the new inbox. Are you going to get any real value out of that inbox knowing that Avid's the kind of company that'll just drop the ball and tell you, go throw it in the trash? You don't need that. Fill up the landfills. But I want to say that I have my 11 rack working with macOS Sonoma. It was a pain in the butt, but it happened. But I am not using an M1 Mac. I could not get the driver to work with M1. It's just, the drivers are a different beast. That's something when you're purchasing an audio interface, always look for USB class compliant. If it's not class compliant, there's no guarantee it'll work down the road. It'll work until the company decides to stop supporting it. Now, if Avid had released a class compliant driver or a class compliant firmware update to the hardware at any point from 2009 to 2019, nobody would be complaining because it would just work. Now, does it work without being able to connect it? Yes, it does. It's a fine piece of hardware. You're not going to hear me say that it's not good. What benefit do you get out of it? Well, you're tracking in zero latency. You're tracking with amplifiers that you could only dream about buying and affording. And if you don't like the speaker sound, cut off the speaker sound and use your own impulse responses. It's perfectly fine. Now, you get reamping in the box. You don't have to buy a $200 to $600 reamping system because it's already a part of it, but that's only if the driver's working. See what I mean? If it was class compliant, it would work whether you're on a Chromebook, a Windows, or a Mac, or even Linux, because class compliant means class compliant. But Avid didn't do that. They just said, you know what? We're going to service this until 2024. We will give full support. Apple Silicon came out in 2020. Well, oddly enough, that's the last year that they released a driver either for Mac or for Windows. 2020 is a long way from 2024. That's 4 years. Now, there's somebody on the internet that's going to correct me and say, oh, you can't expect a company to just keep on making updates to a system. Hold on. When many of us got started in audio production, one of the hallmarks of working with these computers is turning off Wi-Fi or Ethernet ports. You turned it off so that your computer would not be interrupted by requests coming from a network because you were wanting to record. Now, today, that has changed. Just about every software requires you to be online to get updates, to verify that you own the copy, except, of course, for Pro Tools, they want you to have iLock and Avid Link. That's annoying as crap. So there's reasons why you need to, before you make that purchase of an inbox, is understand what you're getting into. It's probably going to be bricked soon. Why? There's newer technologies coming down the pike, and Avid's track record is that they don't support hardware very long. If you don't believe me, look at Barry John's Studio Talk with Barry Johns. Look him up on YouTube. He talks a little bit about Avid. They're not owned by a group of people that loves recording and loves the industry. They're owned by a banking firm. They call them an investment banking system or investment firm. They could care less. Their job is tell you to throw it away and buy more product. I read the current CEO's talking point where he was on a podcast and said that he was a good steward of the environment. But telling people to throw one of these 11 racks that are perfectly functional in the trash is not a good steward of the environment. These are wonderful products. They are long lasting. They are durable. I have found these used at Guitar Center and Reverb, ranging from 150 to 250. You're probably thinking, yeah, but I don't have Pro Tools and I don't want to get in bed with that software. You don't have to. I use Reaper. I use Cubase. I use Ableton. Yes, I still have a copy of Pro Tools, but I use this with any DAW I so choose. And it works wonderful. For those of you who have an audio interface that is M1 based, if you've got SPDIF, SPDIF, if you've got that, this will work. And you can do most everything, but instead of using the software that is the 11 rack editor, you have to go through the headache of using the on-screen, on-system menu system. It's annoying. It's a lot of people hated it because it was clunky, and reasonably so. But sound-wise, you can get good results from it. And like I said, if you don't like the sound, reamp the thing out. Send your information out. It goes through its own reamp box. You go straight to the amplifier. It does its thing. You record it back in. You don't even have to have another system. You can hook a mic up to the front of this thing, and it can do everything you want it to do. It's a really good self-contained unit. It would be great if it had an M1 driver or Apple Silicon driver. It would be even better if it was class compliant, because then you'd never have to bellyache about it again. Now, to go through one of the problems that I had. When I was setting this up in Windows 10 just to verify that it would work with Windows 20H2, I found out it was broken. As you can see here, I'll put this up on the screen and you can see it. I'm running 20H2. The driver is valid for 20H2. I install the driver. Lo and behold, it doesn't work. So I got the older one, the previous one, and installed it after uninstalling the 20H2 version. Then I got it working. Strange, ain't it? Now, imagine you pay for that inbox studio and you get a couple of years use out of it, and they say, you know what, we're not supporting that anymore. Apple's decided to rewrite their software and they're going a different route because they're making a new chipset in a different way, and just throw everything you've got away. That's essentially what Avid is doing. And is it wrong for the environment? Yeah. Does it hurt the people who have invested big bucks into this? Yeah, it does, because Avid products are not known for their inexpensiveness. So when you're making your decision on this, think real hard. Avid was Johnny-come-lately to the Apple Silicon movement in all of their hardware. They were one of the last digital audio workstations to get on board. So if Apple or even Windows is currently going through something very similar. They're starting to really analyze the value of ARM processors, ARM. So they could come out with something, and that would brick the people who use Windows' system. So if you do buy the Avid 11 rack, which is good, understand that whatever the price is, you're going to have to really dwell. Can I get by with that? You get 2 reamp boxes, that's $400. You're already ahead of the game if you've got Windows 10. I wish I could convince you to figure out how to turn off Windows automatic updates. You can get Windows 10 to work with this with no problem. You can get Windows 10, even the latest version I had the drivers working just fine. It took some finagling, but they do work. Mac I had to work with a little bit to get it, but once it's working fine. You have to basically stop something called SIP, and that's, look up how to turn off SIP on Mac. Of course, the Mac users are out there going, no, don't do that, you're killing your system. Look, as long as you ain't a porn surfer and a gossip site reader, if the only thing you do is work with legitimate businesses, you don't have to worry about where you're going. I don't click on links from places trying to sell me something. If I want to buy something, I go straight to the actual store and just deal with the store's website. I don't click the intermediary links because those might have viruses in them. Same thing. You don't have to worry about viruses if you don't click on a bunch of crap. I've not had a computer virus in 20 years, but that's mainly because I deal with only a few places. Same thing. As long as your Windows 10 version is working and working for you, don't change it. Use it till 11 rack dies if that's what you want to do. Great product, inexpensive, a lot of features, but remember, Avid don't support it and quit supporting it 4 years before they said they were going to quit supporting it. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're looking at one of those fancy inbox studios. They might make it today, but come tomorrow, they'll brick it and tell you to go throw it in the trash and buy something new. Now, this has been Big T with Big T Studios. Put a death grip on your back wallet and be mindful of what you're buying and what you're paying for. Leave Avid alone if you can help it. You don't need their stuff. But if you do buy it, know what you're getting. Know what you're getting. And I'll leave off with that. Have a good rest of your week. And I'll see you soon.